Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and I am back in Oneonta after my speaking at the Reawaken America tour in Batavia, New York, about a 3.5 hour drive. Let's take a walk and talk. Let's talk Salman Rushdie for a second. So, for those that don't know who Salman Rushdie is, he is a very famous author. He would probably consider himself a playboy. He's been married so many times and dated actresses, etc., etc. And is probably best known for his work, The Satanic Verses, which said such negative things about the Quran that back in the Dizay, the Ayatollah Khomeini declared a fatwa on him, and he had to go into hiding for years as he thought he would be killed. Now, if you haven't heard, and I don't know how you couldn't have, he was stabbed 11 times. 11 times on stage at an event about an hour or so away from Batavia, New York, where I was speaking. Now, whether you like Rushdie or not, I'd say that obviously this is atrocious, but what I find extremely ironic and almost inconceivable, but again, we're in COVID 1984 land, 2022, is that number one, Clay had to move his event, okay, from Rochester to Batavia because of not really a public outcry, but because a few people who were in separate ministries started saying that he was a hate monger and that this thing was about white supremacy and Christian nationalism. Look, couldn't be further from the truth. He lets me speak. Of course, there were black people there speaking as well, many people in attendance, and that's not even the worst of it. That's not the most ironic part. The most ironic part of the whole thing is 2 days ago, Clay and others, including Michael Flynn, who actually I got to talk to for the very first time, said, great job on my presentation. I hope you guys go check out my presentation. And they got served with a letter saying they were going to be responsible for any violence that occurred there. There was no violence. There's no violence. There wasn't a hint of violence. There hasn't been a hint of violence at any of these things I've been to, okay? In fact, there's a whole lot of love. I want to give a shout out to the actual Bermas Brigade that showed up, my man Kyle, my lady Bev, and to the couple that came up and gave me a $20 tip ski and hutch. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you did come out to see me and I didn't get to see you, I apologize. I was out and about a little bit, but you're also going to get between, I think, 7 and 8 videos, okay, of some interviews that I did and then the press conference that Flynn held. And hopefully I'm going to have Flynn on for at least a half an hour on my broadcast. I spoke with his son. We're setting it up once I get home. And I think that we're going to have a really, really interesting, honest, and different conversation than maybe you've seen before with Michael Flynn. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. But let's talk about this again, how reality has been inverted, okay? I'm not going to make this about, well, this person did this to Rushdie because of the fatwa that was put out on him. I mean, the news is saying that he was an Iranian sympathizer. The man does look Middle Eastern, let's not lie. Apparently had a fake New Jersey license, but I'm going to wait before I make any kind of judgment on this one, okay? The thing that is not in question is he is a mentally ill person and crazy things happen. And maybe, just maybe, if the Attorney General was more worried about actually protecting people and not making a show of it to try to demonize people that are for what? Free speech, okay? Against transhumanism and authoritarianism and want free and fair elections. Instead of demonizing them, maybe focus on some other things or be honest about it after the fact. It is just First of all, it wasn't gun violence. This guy got up on stage and stabbed him 11 times. 11 times, guys. That's a lot. All right? And by the way, I hope Rushdie survives. We don't love violence here. We don't condone violence. And we don't want to endorse when violence of that nature ever happens. It's disturbing and disgusting, and I would hope that everybody would step in. But again, the irony of the idea that a man who's made his bones as an atheist and an anti-religion guy, there's violence at that event. There's not probably a lot of Christian conservatives in that audience, and yet the violence happened there. That's where it happened. So, again, one event, you have a brutal stabbing of one of the main speakers. And by the way, I can tell you right now, if somebody tried that at one of Clark's events, he's got the security down, man. He's got the security moving and grooving. He does a great job. And again, he let me, I hope you guys watch my presentation. I think I did a good job. I stuttered a little bit when I was trying to think of the singularity. Those things happen. I'm not perfect, but I think the content I was able to get in 15 minutes was huge. Cash Patel was there. I really wanted to talk to Cash, but I wanted to make it a sit-down type interview, and hopefully we're going to be doing that in the future. Other news.
Dude, what's going on there, man?
We will be probably posting at least 3 videos tomorrow, depending on how the internet connection is at the hotel. I'm going to go visit my brother, see my family, because really that's what it's all about. And I would encourage all you people that if you have the opportunity tomorrow on Sunday to go see your family, you should do so. Spend some time with them, hug them, kiss them. You never know when it ends, bottom line. And one of the things that I had promised to do in this was to talk about the Bohemian Grove and the Christian conservative angle of all this. Because, and then a lot of people that are posing to be men of the Lord or on your side, they're anything but. And that's not coming from somebody who's coming at it at a religious angle. I'm coming at it via the very real super. Sorry about that, folks. Looks like we cut out for a hot second, but we are back. So I was talking about Clay Clark, and I was talking about grifting. I don't believe that man to be a grifter at all. I believe that's a genuine guy trying to do the right thing, and he believes in his God, and he believes in his religion, and he wants to fight for this country. He also believes in that. Whether he's right all the time is another story. None of us are. Get used to it. I also got to spend a lot of time because we were media, myself and my girlfriend. We had a table with the people from the Epic Times. And, it's one thing to sit here and talk about authoritarian regimes or act like you know about communism or act like you know about the Chinese culture in general or any of those things. It's a whole nother thing to actually live through them and experience them. And one of the interviews I'm going to be putting out is with a young man who's a reporter named David that works over there. And we had a conversation about not only the fact that he was born in China, he lived there until he was 11, and then they went out to Canada. And, obviously he never thought that Canada could resemble in any way, shape, or form the communist regime he was coming from. We had great talks about a number of issues. I mean, you'll get to see the interview, but, we talked about spiritual things as well. So it's really interesting. First of all, it's great to talk to other people and get their perspectives, 1. 2, it's even better if you can firsthand go and try to experience their culture by traveling. I think that a lot of ignorance and rhetoric about not race or ethnicity, etc., but politics in general, or what a society or civilization is really like, is from pure ignorance of never having experienced it, right? And they only experience pieces of it. So you'll see the guy's story, but This is somebody who was a school teacher, obviously believed in the system, and he was actually a biology teacher before all this happened, before the COVID 1984 nightmare infringed on everybody, okay? And to go from that, and I think he's 26 years old, to being a full-time reporter in journalism is just such a flip. And then I got to talk to an even younger gentleman who was 22, and we just had a really great back and forth. He happens to come from more of a Blue Blood-esque background. You know, he had a different perspective on Skull and Bones than I did. We had a civil conversation about it. We laughed about a lot of things, but we respected each other's opinions, right? And there's certainly no kind of violence, unlike at the Rushdie event. You know, so I would say stop being so scared. Everybody we ran across, pretty much that you would call a normal, everyday, run-of-the-mill 9-to-5er, et cetera, when the nightmare we just lived through, you could see the discomfort. You could see them talking about how, well, we had to. I had to do this. I had to do that. You know, I didn't have a choice. And that's really, they forced me. And that's really how it went down for a lot of these people. A lot of people, when push comes to shove, they get pushed down. And they don't necessarily get back up the right way, if at all. So, guys, once again, expect some content tomorrow. At the same time, I'm pretty exhausted. It was like a 3.5-hour drive here. I'm going to see the family. I'm kind of like babbling on the video anyway. But I'll be putting stuff out, and I hope everybody goes and checks out my presentation on transhumanism. I absolutely love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.